Fire Call, the fire safety show with Division Chief Jim Sideras.
Hi, my name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you are watching Fire Call, behind the scenes all over the city with the crews of Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. We are going to be working with the wildland crews, seeing them do some cool training. Be talking to our new recruits. They're going to be hitting the floor anytime now. Talking to Captain Ron Harris, his last going away before retirement. And then we're going to answer some of your questions about volunteer chiefs and how those volunteers work in our department. And of course, we're always using your questions. Hey, and your questions are pretty darn good. And if we use them, you get a sassy Sioux Falls Fire Rescue t-shirt. Now, always got some shout-outs too. And this first shout-out goes to Scott. Scott lives in Menlo, Georgia, and he wants a shout-out to Station 7, Menlo, Georgia, Menlo Fire Department. This one's going out to you, Scott. This one goes to Willie. Willie is in Asheville, North Carolina, and he wants a shout-out to the Asheville Fire Explorers. And he also has a cool question. He wants to know if you have to rescue someone off a ladder, upper stories, and the person's unconscious, how do you get them down? Well, if you watch this video, you're going to see it takes some training. Don't just try this on your own, but you can do this, and we have a special way of getting people down who are unconscious. Just like the video shows, nice and easy, everything has to be controlled. Don't do that without training. But Willie, if you're going to be a firefighter, you're going to have good shape and learn how to do that kind of stuff. And our last shout out, before we start the show, of course, these guys in Australia. Keep watching, and this one is from the Rudy Hill Rural Fire Service in New South Wales, Australia. And it's from Matthew. And Matthew wants to know all about brush trucks. Well, in the U.S., we call them wildland trucks. And that's who we're going to hang out with in the show. So sit back, relax, turn off that BlackBerry, tell the kids to sit down and be quiet, grab some popcorn, and hang with the crews of Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. We're always getting new firefighters on the department. We have a new one, Brad Peterson. Brad, what do you think so far?
It's fantastic.
Now tell us about where you're from and kind of what you do before you came to become a firefighter.
I live in Beersford, South Dakota, about 30 miles south of here. Before I became a firefighter, I was a sales manager at a manufacturing company.
Well, okay, how'd you get from there to here?
I've been on a volunteer service for 13 years down there. I love the camaraderie of being on the fire service and just like helping people.
What's been the biggest challenge so far from going from a sales job to saving lives?
The biggest challenge has been getting into shape. I came in here in very good shape, but you need a good conditioning, core, cardiovascular to do this job.
So have they been getting into shape out here? I've heard stories, so you can't lie.
Yeah, no, we do. We do physical training every morning for an hour, hour and a half. And that can be anywhere from doing exercises in full SCBA with PPE on, or running 3 miles, and then coming back and we'll be doing stretching and push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups.
Did you think before you started that it would be this demanding?
I had an idea that it would be this demanding, but until you really get in this environment and really experience it, you really have no clue.
Well, hey, I'm glad you're with us, Brad, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you more over your career. This is another one of our new firefighters named Nate Floyd. Nate, what do you think about being a firefighter so far?
Oh, I love it. 6 weeks into it and just can't get enough. Now
tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a Sioux Falls kid. What did you do before you came here? And also tell us what your claim to fame is.
Well, I worked for the Parks and Rec department here in town for the past 8 years, and then I've been farming with my dad too. And then also on the side, I play for football for the Sioux Falls Storm.
And the Storm is the indoor league, and what position did you play?
I played defensive end for the past 5 years.
Now, coming here, you're in pretty good shape. Are you finding any differences in working out to be a firefighter as to be a pro football player?
I think a lot of it's the same. Here, though, it's a lot more knowledge. You need a lot more knowledge. You need to know what's going on. So,
well, I'm glad you're here with us, Nate, and I'm sure we're going to be talking to you again, too.
Thank you very much.
We have a lot of questions concerning training, and I have one of the best training officers in the country. He's our senior-most training officer, Captain Ron Harris. Ron, got to ask you, I know you're getting ready to retire. No change in your mind?
Nope. Not at all.
And now, how long have you been on the department?
Coming up 27 years when I retire.
And you've been at the training center for how long?
Just about 10.
And in your 10 years, about how many firefighters have you trained, have gone through since you've been out here?
Right at about 100.
Wow. That's a big fingerprint on the department there for teaching them what they need to know. Mm-hmm. Are you ready for some questions?
It's been fun. You bet.
Has it been fun?
Yes, it has. Great.
Okay, it's not going to be now with these questions. Here we go. First question's from Travis. Travis lives in Sumter, South Carolina. And Travis wants to know, what school subjects should he work at, and how many hours does it take to be a firefighter? And we don't go by hours, we go by weeks out here.
Yes, we do. But as far as the subjects at school, a lot of math, science, just those kind of things, because it's a lot of chemistry when it comes to fires and,
and the basic
water.
sciences?
Yes, you bet.
And then how many weeks does it take from start to finish when we get a new firefighter out here?
Well, we used to have 10, and then it went to 8, and now it's 9.
Weeks?
So yes, 9 weeks right now. That's what we're using.
And that's full days?
Full days. A full 53 hours a week.
And how many was it when you started 20-some odd years ago? How many was it? Do you remember?
As far as hours or weeks?
Weeks.
I think it was like a 6-week program.
This one's from Mark. Mark lives in Brockton, Massachusetts. And same question. He wants to know, how long does it take to go through the training academy?
Again.
9 weeks.
Yep.
This question's from Kenneth. Kenneth lives in Howell, New Jersey. And Kenneth wants to know, he wants to be a firefighter. You're going to have a lot of good information for him. He said, what should he work on? Book work or physical training when you're thinking of being a firefighter?
As far as the book work, that's going to come, because they're going to have to know and go through a lot of books when they get here. The physical part is what's going to get most people. They got to get through that first. So really the cardio part of it, a lot of training and core work, sit-ups, that kind of thing. They don't have to be muscle men as far as great big bodybuilders.
Sure.
Just really cardio.
And stay out of trouble.
You bet.
Here's a question from David. David lives in Pennsylvania, West Sunbury, and he wants to know, what's the difference between firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 as far as for training?
Well, firefighter 1 is a lot of book work, put it that way. A little bit of hands-on, but not much.
Okay.
But when you get to firefighter 2, now the skill level goes up. They actually, going outside, actually can go into a live fire situation, with smoke and everything.
And when our firefighters leave here, they're going to have both.
Yes, they will be trained as firefighter 1 and 2.
Okay, great. Well, Ron, we don't want to see you go. We'd like to keep you a little while longer, at least for another couple of groups. But anything else you want to say about your 20-some-odd years in the department?
Nah, it's been a great career. I loved it. Wouldn't trade it for anything else, really. It's been fun.
Sure goes fast, doesn't it?
It went quick.
Wow. Well, thanks, Ron.
You bet. Thank you.
We've got a lot of questions about volunteer fire departments and professional fire departments or full-time departments. With me, I have Captain Mike Koopman, also the chief of the Baltic Volunteer
correct.
Fire Department. How big is the Baltic Volunteer Department?
We have 25 members on our department.
Okay, so that's about an average for a department?
Yep. Yes, I would say so.
Okay, this first question comes from Stefan. Stefan lives in Kankakee, Illinois, and he wants to know, what's the main difference between a volunteer department and a full-time, a volunteer firefighter and a full-time firefighter?
Well, our volunteer firefighters are not paid. They receive no compensation for being a member of the department and responding to calls and things like that. Where if you're on a career paid department, that's the one difference there, is they get your paycheck.
And then they're also on what, pagers mostly, or how do they get notified of a call?
Yes, we all carry pagers. Some are alphanumeric, digital. Some are analog, voice pagers, and things like that. And then some of those carry radios as well, portable radios. So that is the way we get notified of calls.
And they're on call anywhere they happen to be, basically.
24/7. Yep.
This question is from Michael. Michael lives in Redfield, South Dakota. And he wants to know, what's the difference between a volunteer fire department and a paid professional fire department?
There again, it's kind of where the money comes from, I guess. It's like I said, volunteers don't get paid for the time they put in there, where a paid department does. That's their main job. Volunteers have another job, another career.
Now, for fire departments, we get our money from city budgets and taxes. How does the volunteer department? What do you have? Do you have to do fundraisers to get different money options coming in?
Yes, we do some fundraisers. Our department, we hold a couple of them annually to raise some extra funds. We also get some through contracts with the city. We receive money there, as well as the townships outside of the city and from Minnehaha County as well.
So, as a chief of a volunteer department, you kind of pretty much got to be friends with everybody and having your hand out all the time.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
this is your last question. It comes from Wesley. Wesley lives in Alsip, Illinois, and he wants to know. Oh, this is a good one, especially when we start looking around your station. What's the difference between a city firehouse and a firehouse in a rural community?
Well, a lot of times in the rural community, it ends up being the focal point of the town, but we don't sleep overnight at our stations, in our volunteer departments, where they do, in the city as your profession, you're here all the time. So I would say that would be the big difference, is that it's not staffed,
24 hours a day.
That's correct.
And we're not eating, here
correct.
We eat together, live together, pretty much do everything together.
Yep.
In a volunteer department, people go home.
That's right. We try to be home for supper time. Sometimes we miss out on that.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike.
You bet. No problem.
We have a couple more questions about volunteer departments. Now, one thing to think about volunteer departments, across the country, the vast majority of fire departments are volunteer departments. Smaller towns, and they really don't have the call volume or the ability to support a large paid department. So we really have to thank those volunteers out there, because when we think about fire departments, we also think about big cities, but it's those men and women in those volunteer departments that are saving a lot of people's lives and taking care of business out there. Talking about volunteer departments, I got with me Grant Van Riesen. Grant, you're a full-time firefighter. You're actually the driver with Sioux Falls Fire Rescue, Action Station 7.
You bet.
But on your days off, you're the chief of the T volunteer department. Is that right?
That's right.
Kind of balancing act between the two?
Absolutely.
And it can be tough, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
How many firefighters on the T department?
We have 35 active members on our department
Okay,
right now.
in Sioux Falls, you know how many we have?
193.
193. Not a test question this year.
All right.
We do have a question from Corey. Corey lives in Plymouth, New York. And Corey wants to know, is Sioux Falls a paid or a volunteer department?
We are a paid department.
Checks show up every 2 weeks?
That's right.
And it's because we're so large that we can do that.
Right.
This next question, though, is from Harold. Harold lives in Van Buren, Indiana. Harold wants to know, perfect question for you as a volunteer chief, and timely as almost today's headlines. Do you work, Sioux Falls Fire Rescue, do you work with volunteers on different incidents? And as a chief of T, tell us about how we interact. T is very close to Sioux Falls.
That's correct.
And
Only
what
a couple
happens?
miles away.
What happens when you have a major incident in T?
On any fire alarm, we have, when we're dispatched to a fire alarm, Sioux Falls is automatically dispatched, which gives us our automatic aid with Sioux Falls, and they respond to the fires as well. And we get to use their personnel and equipment and along with ours, and we just all interact and work together to put fires out.
Now, you had a big fire there recently.
That's right.
And you were the chief. You were the incident commander. So when Sioux Falls comes in, or any other departments, you're still the boss, correct?
Right.
But you can have those resources moved anywhere you feel is necessary under the incident command system.
Right. Yeah, and it works out nice because we have battalion chiefs that come down to the fires and division chiefs, and I can interact with them, and they can help out a little bit, and,
Sure.
and it works out real well. So.
Now, a question that people are going to be asking. You're a volunteer fire chief, important job.
Right.
You're working in Sioux Falls, another important job. What happens when you, now who's running the show when you're gone? If there's a fire in T, do you stay here? Do you go there? How does that work, Grant? How do you balance all these balls up in the air at one time?
When I show up to work, like this morning, I turn my pager off for the volunteer department. We're fortunate enough to have personnel down in T that we have 2 assistant chiefs and we have 5 captains. So they're running the show when I'm gone.
So when you leave here, pager goes on for T.
Turn on the pager and back to work we go.
Great. Well, we appreciate all your dedication, Grant.
Thank you.
It's guys like you that help out these small communities and both bring the knowledge from here to there and from there to here. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. We have a lot of questions about wildland fires and brush fires. I have no one better to answer some of those questions than our very own Captain Bob Vosberg. Now, Bob, kind of not in your normal structural firefighting gear, but tell us what's going on here today out at Arrowhead Park.
We're out here at Arrowhead doing a prescribed burn we're trying to burn off these cold season grasses that have taken over the old prairie here and rejuvenate the warm season grasses. So we'd like to keep this park in more of its natural state, and that would be with the native grasses that are indigenous to this area.
Now, when you look at the difference between structural firefighting, which we've done a lot on, and the wildland firefighting, what are some of the big concerns of you? Because these fires can be extremely dangerous when you get into a large grassland or wildland fire.
Yeah, one of the big things we really keep an eye on here is the weather. The ever-changing weather conditions. We have a good safety zone and escape routes in place, but then we're always changing with the weather and the wind and stuff. So that's one of our main concerns. We're a lot of times on wildland situations, we're interacting with a lot of different departments. And so communications can be somewhat of a hassle once in a while.
That's where the incident command system needs to be in place so that everyone's on the same sheet of music.
Absolutely. The incident command system in the wildland fires is followed to the T. They do an excellent job of that, and we learn from that, as well as all the other departments.
One of the big differences is we used to call a water tanker, which normally would have 4 wheels and pull up and drop their tank, is in reality, in ICS, a tanker is...
It's going to have wings. You better be having somebody talk on the air ground frequency to tell him where he wants to drop that load of water or retardant, whatever he's carrying. But yeah.
So that's the big difference.
Big differences there. We're trying to get that way now. Everything on 4 wheels we use is called tenders.
The other incident we've had in South Dakota, we always have grassland fires and big grassland fires, but they can be very deadly to firefighters. We don't hear as much about those as we do structural firefighting, but we do have line of duty deaths involved across the state with those wildland fires.
Yes, we do. In fact, my numbers are right, I think the last 3 firefighters killed in South Dakota were killed on wildland firefighters as line of duty deaths.
Just both shifts in the wind and this fire, it looks fairly harmless, but these fires can move very fast, especially up a little grade. Dry that grass out in front of it, and it can really spread pretty quick.
Yes, it does. We really watch the winds in the afternoon. The temperatures as well. As them temperatures increase in the afternoon and our RHs drop.
RH is?
Relative humidity. When them numbers start below or get into single digits, the fire behavior really intensifies, and that's when these fires can really become dangerous.
And you can't outrun them. If you're in front of them, if you're in a bad spot...
Absolutely not. Don't try to outrun them. That's why we have designated escape routes and safety zones. And every time before we have even a prescribed fire or we go on assignment on a wildland fire, we do have our safety briefings in the mornings. And if we need to, again in the afternoon, and we do talk about the changes, if they need to reevaluate their safety zones or the weather. And you'll see these guys are actually taking their belt weather kits out and they're doing weather observations right here on the fire to monitor all the changes.
Well, thanks a lot, Bob, and I appreciate all your help.
All right, thank you.
Got a lot of questions about these brush trucks and these wildland firefighting trucks. Got the perfect person, Bo Mortensen, one of our experienced firefighters, 3 years on the job.
Sure.
Bo, you're making me feel confident now. Now, tell us about this truck. This particular one is out of station?
This one is out of station 9.
Okay, and how are they manned, Bo? People are going to wonder, is there people on this truck ready to go all the time just for wildland fires?
Yeah, well, we have our captain, driver, and 2 firefighters out at station 9. And if a call comes in that they need a wildland rig, then 2 of them will hop in here, and the other 2 will probably take a tanker out there.
And so essentially these are cross-manned because we don't have enough wildland demands all the time for it.
Yes, sir.
Take us around this truck and kind of show us what you got. What are some of the things that you use every day when you're doing grassland fires?
Well, one of them that gets used probably the most around here.
The famous paddles.
Famous grass paddle. And what you do is, these are for the smaller fires, of course. You just kind of go along and, sweep the ground and just, smother the fire. You don't want to sit there and smack them on the ground because that's just going to blow stuff everywhere. You don't want those embers flying.
And these are used a lot of times when right next to railroad tracks, little grass fires in the yard.
Yep. Just nice and portable. You don't have to, bring out any hose. And
not a lot of training with this one.
That's right.
Okay, Bo. I'll take that for you.
All right, thank you. This tool here is a McLeod. And this is just used for digging, scratching line down. If you mind holding this for a second. And that's for the chopping part of it. Just a glorified garden hoe.
So you can take down small brush pretty easy?
Oh yeah. For example,
A practical application right now.
just little stuff like this, gone.
And then we're just basically trying to make, this is going to be used to break a fire line?
Yeah, we're just gonna, if you get a line crew, you just start scratching the line, and you got other people that come down, and the first person just makes a little scratch, and the next people come out and make it bigger and wider and a little bit deeper. This tool here is a Pulaski. It's pretty much just an axe with a good digging tool on it, and it just you can really unearth a lot of ground with these.
And basically we're just trying to move the fuel away. Now these aren't carried on, we don't carry Pulaskis and McLeods on regular trucks, we're just carrying them on our brush trucks or our wildlands, correct?
That's correct.
And now you got, I see an Army shovel in there, and also a chainsaw.
Well, this actually, this one
longer.
pretty much is an Army shovel. But it's a combination. We got a pick on the end of this, and then the shovel part of it.
Sure, folds up nice and flat, takes up a lot less room.
Yep. And these are good for actually for walking with. You got that just pretty much like a walking stick. Where these shorter ones are.
Because it's not going to be walking on real smooth ground. It's going to be uphill, crossing streams, rocks.
Yep. And then of course you got your chainsaw. Self-explanatory.
You bet. Cutting down brush.
Yep. And
a box of stuff.
This right here is just one of our Ys that we can connect a hose here and more out here. And on any hand line, you can have 20 of those on a hand line, depending on how much.
So you can actually, we can just split this off, and if we want this line off, we just shut this one off, and then just turn this one on, and you're good to go.
Yep. This little tool right here, you crimp down on a hose, so you don't have to walk all the way back and shut this off. You can just crimp it down and then wide off of that. So just a smaller hose clamp.
Now in the back of this truck, Bolton, it looks like you're a completely self-contained truck. You can pretty much go anywhere.
Yep, sure can.
Tank, how much does this tank hold?
250 gallons.
And you can see if we wiggle this, you can see that the little lever right there.
Yep.
Now tell us about this a little bit. Can you pump and roll at the same time?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, because the pump is right here. It has nothing to do with the
drivetrain.
Right, exactly. So yeah, if you want to, they can bump down the line, and you can sit back with the hose and follow along with them.
How long do you usually, in normal operation, does that amount of water last for quite a while?
It all depends on the diameter of the hose you're using, but if you're kind of out in the rhubarb where water is not easily accessible, where the tankers can get in or tenders, we'll conserve as much as we can and use the hand tools to put most of the fire out.
And then now you got 2.5s.
Yep.
You're not pumping out to 2.5s, are you?
No, that's where we'll fill it up. We can run it right through here and put it in there, or we can just drop the hose into the top here and fill it up.
Now, do you carry any foam on this truck?
Yeah.
Tell us about foam and why is that important?
The foam is good for if you want to, just put a good blanket down, and the fire's not going to go through the foam.
Mm-hmm.
The problem you have is when people lay down the foam, they might come and step in it, and that's what causes it to flare back up. But the foam it's not used real often, but
Now, when we think of house fires, we're thinking of temperatures, 1,000 degrees.
Right.
These grass fires, fast moving, still kill you, do a lot of damage, but they're not super hot fires, are they?
They are very hot, actually.
Really?
Yes. When I was out in Oregon, actually, we were having pine trees that were 100 feet tall just light up.
Mm-hmm.
They call them torches, and the heat is absolutely extreme as can be. If you're parked too close, it'll melt mirrors. It'll do some damage real fast.
Wow, that's impressive, Bo. Now, show us the other side of this truck.
Yes, sir. All right, what we have here is one of our larger diameter hoses, actually, as opposed to our structural firefighting
Which is going to be,
exactly
2.5 inches, inch and 3/4.
Yeah, but this is actually pretty large. What we use, this is more of the supply line, and this here is the toy hose where we can go in and out of thick brush and spray down with these because these are very maneuverable.
Single jacketed, lightweight.
Yes. Yep. So.
Okay. What else you got?
Well, we got our fire shelters in here.
Now I know we can't take these out, but
you can take them out a little ways there.
But they're just essentially just like a big foil.
Yep. And
kind of a shake and
everybody,
bake.
this is your lifesaver right here. If you ever need to use it, you
How
gotta,
fast can you get into it?
Oh,
Of course, it depends
20 seconds, yeah.
depends on how fast the fire's
Yeah.
coming.
I mean, the main thing is make sure you're using it right. Just don't get into it and assume that you're protected. Make sure you have it sealed down and your face down, your hands covered. Always have your gloves on, all your PPE at all times.
One of the things that we see our firefighters doing out here is they're using something called a drip torch. And everyone's going to want to know what in the world is it and how does it work? Well, I don't have Bob this time. I got the next newest version, Brad Vosberg, Bob's brother. Now, Brad, you're on the Sioux Falls Fire Rescue, wildland guy too. Tell us about this drip torch.
This is called a drip torch. It's one of the devices we use to, what we say, put down fire or start the fire when we do a controlled burn like this, or even a back burn in an actual wildfire situation. Okay, I'll just go through what the components of it are and how it works with you. On the end of it is got a wick or a fuse, and we call it a wick. And at the end of front of that is a nozzle that dumps the fuel out on the wick, and as the fuel runs across that, it ignites and drips onto the ground and ignites the ground. As you move back down the stem, you'll notice that there's a curl in that, and that's done that way so as it doesn't pour too much fuel at one time, but even more importantly is the fire will not back down through that and into the can.
That'd be dangerous.
That'd be very bad.
Okay.
The fuel that we use in a drip torch is actually a mixture of diesel fuel and gasoline.
Now, why is that?
Well, gasoline is way too volatile to use straight, and diesel fuel will not actually ignite on its own. So, you dilute them down to where you get a usable mix that'll not burn too fast.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Brad.
Thanks.
Hey, that was a great show. I still smell a little smoky from hanging out with the guys at Wildland out doing that practice burn. Now, if you have questions, just mail them in, and we'll try and get to them. We got a lot of questions, and if you do, of course, Jim's favorite sassy shirt, best shirt in the country, and you can get those just by mailing in your shout-outs. Now, speaking of shout-outs, we got them, and I've been practicing the names this time. This first one is from Ryan. Ryan lives in Nebraska, lives in Elkhorn, Nebraska. He wants a shout-out to Omaha Fire Department, Omaha, Nebraska. Guys in Omaha better be practicing enough for that combat challenge because the Sioux Falls team is taking names, and I saw you were coming up here. This next one is from David. David lives in Monongahela, Pennsylvania. Yes, I got it right. Check the spelling. And he wants a shout out to the Monongahela Fire Department in Pennsylvania. I've been sweating that one out for the last 20 minutes. And finally, we have from Lucas. Lucas wants a shout out to the Melbourne Volunteer Fire Department in Melbourne, Iowa. Not everything's coming out of Australia. Hey, we really had a great time. We like you sticking with our show. If you got questions, you want to know about anything about Sioux Falls Fire Rescue, all you got to do is go on our website and ask. And it's my job to find the answers, and some of them are pretty tough. I appreciate you watching the show and hanging with us. See you next month. My name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you've been watching Fire Call.